Hey friends, my name's Ciotti. Everybody calls me Ciotti. Welcome to Sunday Q&A. Stop it, stop it, stop it, stop it. Stop it, stop it. There it is. We're going to be talking about 04 2S, DJI 04 Lite 2S builds today. I've done loads and loads and loads of testing over the last few months, and I couldn't think of anything else to live stream about today. I'm all fucked up, man. The finger situation has me all... I burned my index finger on my other hand the other night setting off fireworks with the kids. God damn it. So I'm just a mess, bro. The pinky is slowly, maybe kind of getting better. I say that as I'm saying that, it's covered in blood again. What the hell happened? I hope I didn't get it all over this shirt. Hold on. Why did this start bleeding again? Come on now! Alright. So, apparently, what's blown me away over the past couple days is how connected your pinky is to the rest of your hand. I've been trying to do, god damn it. I've been trying to, like, function, but I really have to, like, not use my right hand. Like, everything that I do fires up one of the muscles or tendons or whatever the hell they are in your fingers, and it hurts like shit because, like, it's trying to close up, and then, like, the tendons move it, and it, like, and then sometimes it'll start to bleed a little bit. It hasn't bled in like 24 hours though. I was really happy. Oh no, this is dried blood. We're fine. This is just dried blood. I gotta change these bandages again. Yeah, okay. This is all dried blood. We're good. It was shiny, and I hadn't noticed it, so I thought it was fresh. I thought it was fresh. The flight footage that you were just watching is the rig that fucked me all up. This is the CineGlide. That's what you were just watching. 2507 1850 kV motors, motor limited down to 90%. Gem fan 5552 propellers. All up weight is around 800 grams. I think. I believe what you were just watching was it with the big battery on 6S Tattoo R Line 1700. With that battery, it's up at about 800 grams. The smaller battery that I run on it is a 6S 1400 R Line, and it's at like 750 grams with that battery. Crazy. When it chopped me all up, luckily these 5552s were not on it. 5.1 inch props were on it, and basically it was down on the ground, and I picked it up like this, and so I was holding it like this, and the transmitter swung forward, swung back, hit my chest, hit the arm. Apparently I had zeroed the throttle, which I never used to do. I always used to bring the throttle down to like 10-15% and then disarm it, and it won't rearm with the throttle not zeroed out. But apparently I zeroed the throttle out. Makes sense. Lots of tiny whooping over the last couple of years. Not a lot of big quad flying. That made me get a little sloppy. And then I was also talking to a guy, so I was distracted there. It was hot as shit out. I was sweating my balls off, distracted there. And so, yeah, when I was holding it like this, it armed. And so this prop, this is now a 5.5 inch prop. This would have been an absolute nightmare. 5.1 inch prop was just close enough to like mangle the shit out of my out of the top of my little pinky here. And so that sucked really bad. So yeah, put a pre-arm on. Put dual stage arming on your shit. Or just don't get distracted. This is the first time it's been this bad. I've gotten cut twice before this, many years ago, and it wasn't really all that bad. This is pretty nasty. My finger looks pretty gross. So I got that going for me, which sucks. Let this be your reminder to over the years, over the last pretty much decade, what I've noticed is like I'll be really careful, and then a little bit less careful, 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 a little bit less careful. Something will happen. I'll be really careful again, a little bit less careful, a little bit, and so let what happened to me here be as if it happened to you, and let that put you at the top of your being safe barometer or whatever. Because yeah, this blows, man. Like this, there's been a lot of pain. Changing the bandages sucks. It's not worth it to skip steps that don't really save you any time. You know, like that's the thing. When we get a little bit less careful, we save like 1/100th of a second. It's not worth that at all. So Let this reset your whatever you have in place to keep you safe from anything bigger than like anything north of like 1S or maybe 2S. Be like fully on guard. You guys know. You guys know what's up. 1S stuff, tiny whoops, they're a joke. Like I've hit myself in the head, in the face, in the neck. I've had prop strikes with them to the neck, and like they don't even break the skin. They scratch you and they leave a little red mark, but yeah, they're kind of a joke. You know, best case scenario, you should treat all of them. Not best case scenario. You should treat all FPV builds as if they're 7-inch death machines. If you develop bad habits with a tiny whoop, it's gonna make your life a lot harder. It's so just yeah, respect tiny whoops in the same way that you would respect something bigger, and that way you've only got that. It's the same thing as like, it's the same thing as why we only run one rate profile, right? Why we don't have multiple rate profiles. It's about like building a muscle memory and then just only having that one muscle memory that you have to build on more and more and more, put more time into. So yeah, don't be like me. In the chat, Colin Stapleton was first, Bad was next, Frank Nicholas, Apache Smoke, Wounded Sniper, Kelvin, Mustang, Nebraska, Rockcrawler, Higgy 47, Atreides, the Bruce, Elias, Sir Dragston, Gareth Dix, Me Huggy. Mr. Huggy, is that you? You changed it to Me Huggy? I like it. Uriel, Botanically Advanced, Enhanced, rather. Alex FPV, Gareth Dix. Flurk and the Blurk, thank you for the super chat. I'll read it in a second. Brandon's Baked Beans, Peace and Love. Uriel, Kelvin again. Fizz PV, Gareth Dix, Higgy 47, Kelvin again, Mr. Meaty. Flycadelic, Jason Levin, Peace and Love FPV, BMF Spade, Yukon FPV, Chaser, Stone, Gareth Dix. I think I got everybody, right? All right. If you want the Gangly Man to say your name, you got to get in here early. Or type my name into your chat message. In the chat, if you want to talk directly to someone, type their name and type it correctly. That person, their own name will light up in orange. So every single person that's typed CiottiFPV into their chat messages, I can see those chat messages. Those are the ones that I'll read. Con Stapleton says, evening, CiottiFPV and gang, how are we all? I've been better, but I've been worse. Mainly because of this mangled finger situation I'm dealing with. The firework that I burned myself on actually was a smoke grenade. It looked like a real pineapple grenade, and it had like a pull ring on the side and everything. I was like, oh, that's super cool, and I just held it in my hand and pulled the pull ring, and like so you got your like pineapple grenade here, and there's a little tube on the side of it here, and then the string and the pull ring were coming out of that tube. Well, unbelievably, that tube has gunpowder in it, because when I pulled that, I'm holding it, and when I pull that pulled the ring with the string on it, it just shoots fire out that fucking tube directly down the body of the fucking thing. Like, oh my god, what a horrendously bad design. So it just like shot fire directly in my finger, only for like a split second, but still that shit burns like ridiculously hot. So I got a little, it's probably only like a 1st degree burn here. I put some aloe on it and threw a band-aid on it. It's whatever, but I'm having a tough time, man. Apache Smoke, Good and Sniper says, good evening, CiottiFPV and all you gangly gangers. How are you all doing? Just came back from teaching kids how to fly and build drones. Hell yeah. Had a great time, but I'm so tired now. Dude, that's amazing. Apache Smoke is what more can we ask for? He's teaching kids. He's doing the timestamps. What a fucking Chad, bro. I said, Chad, am I cool now? I said, I used my mouth to say something that the cool people say. Does that mean I'm cool too now? No? Oh, well. Bad says, perfect timing for this stream as I plan to get an 04 Lite whoop this month. Nice. Kelvin Knudsen says, sad 4th of July. Yeah, indeed. Happy droning, though. It's how we FPVers put our head in the sand. Yeah. Ain't that the truth? Behind the goggles, nobody can see us. Atreides says, what shirt is that in the intro? Oh, that's an old, FPV crate shirt.
All right, last but not least.
Blah 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 blah. Yeah, that's an old. That's actually my favorite FPV crate shirt of all time. Is it FPV crate? No. The Get FPV box. What was the Get FPV box called? FPV crate, isn't it? FPVC, right? Sub 250. FPV yeah, FPV crate. You know, I haven't searched FPV crate in a while. Does the domain still exist? It does. For a while, you could still get. Oh no, it's gone. For a while, you could still get the shirts. Hold on. Let's see if the here we go. Stop it. It might be in here. Cause it's if I do another Get FPV order, I might snag another one. It's a really cool shirt. No, it's gone. That sucks. It's probably gone because it's such a cool design. Yeah, damn, that stinks. It looks like they have most of the... It makes sense. I mean, they obviously had a ton of these. So they did a shirt a month with the crates. And so they obviously printed tons and tons of these shirts. So it makes sense that they would have some extras and then, yeah, of course, throw them up here. Oh, that's a shame. Well, I'll have to take really good... basically, I'm going to stop wearing that shirt because I don't want to screw it up. Sorry, dude. Sorry to get your hopes up. Peace and love, FPV says, looking good, pal. Thank you, man. Uriel says, handicapped. Kelvin says, built my version of 2S Mobula 804 with Lava 1102 14,000s, and it's hard to tune. I use the same parts for a 2S04 build using the Gep RC Gep TC18 frame. So much better on the two-plate frame, in my honest opinion. I don't know what that frame is. Gep RC frame? Is that the one? Gep TC18. T-Cube 18, is that it? So you did an open prop, eh? But you're having a hard time tuning it. I wonder why. I don't know anything about this frame, so I don't know if this frame is a mess from like the resonant frequency standpoint. Looks like they have an 04 version of it as well. It's a solid base plate, which kind of stinks. This, the base plate looks awful thin, but it's really hard to tell with these tiny little guys. It does, whether it's too thin, it does look like the carbon fiber has been laid up correctly with the strands traveling the length of the arm, which is awesome. This also could be a CAD drawing. It kind of maybe looks like a CAD drawing. Boy, is it hard to tell. I would check that. Check that the carbon fiber looks like this. The weave should be in this orientation here. If it is not, if the weave goes front, back, left, and right, that's going to be a part of the problem. That's going to make the arms wobbly as hell, and it could be a frame problem. Because yeah, in the plastic tiny whoop frames, which are floppy as hell, these things are not hard to tune. So they should not be hard to tune in a carbon fiber frame. Last couple days have been a little rough. Not having healthy working hand. You use your hands for everything. Uriel says you can drink expensive tea with pinky up. Yeah, I've felt like I've been really like the key to this not hurting has been to just do everything with index finger and thumb. If I need a little bit of extra strength, I'll use my middle finger, but now I'm getting a little bit too close to the banged up fingers. And so like I'm doing stuff like drinking something, and I'm like, ooh, and I've already been like, oh god, I must look like such an idiot. I'm all alone, but you know, it's like, yeah. One of those funny things. Bulldozer says, save a finger, fly tiny whoops. Indeed. Indeed. Flurk in the Berg with a $5 super chat. Thank you so much for the support, my friend. He says, that's what he said. He said, having said that, what prop size and motor is best to make a 2S as recklessly, stupidly fast as possible? 18,000 kV with no motor limit, basically. It depends on the all up weight, but like, yeah, like basically the biggest motor that you can find in 18,000 kV. I know that sounds weird to say it that way, but 18,000 kV is really high, and the higher the kV, the smaller the motor selection is going to be. And so, like, literally, if you just search and search and search for 18,000 kV motors, 18 or 19,000 kV motors, the only options are going to be small motors. And so, like, if you're able to, like, you won't be able to find an 1103 in that high of a kV. You'll probably only be able to find, like, an 1102, which is a good choice. Or you might be able to find, like, a 1003. That'll be a good choice, too. So yeah, the biggest stator size you can find in 18, 19, 20,000 kV, that, you know, it also depends on like what props you're looking at running and all that nonsense, but yeah. There you go. Good question, brother. Thank you for the support. If you're interested in supporting this live stream to ensure that it continues, because I do rely on you beautiful people, and this year it has been declining a little bit every month. CiottiFPV.com, and then there's a Patreon link over there. That's the absolute best way that you can support me. There's a bunch of other ways you can support me. Change your bookmarks to affiliate links. If you don't use bookmarks, change your URL bar suggestions. Well, just delete your current URL bar suggestions, and then hit my affiliate links a couple times in a row. And then from that point on, usually if you type AMA to go to Amazon, it'll think that you want to go to my affiliate link, and then you don't have to worry about it. The affiliate links get cleared out after a week or when you do an order. So you have to hit affiliate links over and over and over again. So change your bookmarks, change your URL bar suggestions, and then you don't even have to think about it. And you'll be supporting someone that watches stuff that you can, you know, you'll be supporting someone that makes stuff that you can watch for free on YouTube. I have an Etsy store with some new stuff on it. Actually, I've finally got the batwing mounts up onto my Etsy store. You're going to be able to select your up tilt here. You're going to be able to select your color here, and I will hook you up. This is the regular 10mm lens batwing mount. This will work on the Walk Snail Lite. There's actually a specific version of it for the Walk Snail Lite. This will work on the Newbie Drone BI, the Caddx Ant, the CO3, any analog any camera really, any camera that's like roughly this size that has the super standard 10mm diameter lens on it will work in this batwing mount. Huge shout out to Timmons for doing tons of work on this mount. Over on my Discord, which is also linked from CiottiFPV.com, there's a 3D printing channel that's open to everyone. It's not in the Patreon only section. And in there, these files are all available, and you'll get to see. There's been a couple of folks. Crom was involved in it a little bit. Yin Yang. I'm sure that I'm forgetting one or two other people. A bunch of people have been involved in this, helping kind of get it absolutely perfectly dialed in. And it's been a really cool little project. And I love that they're actually available now. Also, there's an 04 batwing mount available. Again, bunch of different colors, and then bunch of different up tilts, 0, 10, 20. The zero, for the record, when you clip these on to the Cockroach 65 V3 frame, the frame is not perfectly vertical, right? Like the mangled hand. The ducts are like this, right? Well, the ducts are actually kind of like this. And so when you mount the batwing, if it's truly 0 degrees, you'll actually be in down tilt. So even the 0 degree 04 batwing has a little bit of up tilt, so that it's going to offset the way that the duct sits, and then it'll actually give you that like 0 up tilt. You can also just kind of move the batwing mount forward and back a little bit on the hooks. It's got like it sits on the hooks really firm, but there is a little bit of motion there. So like if you want like an extra 5 degrees, or if you want to try flying in down tilt, which is pretty interesting, you can actually kind of do that on the little hooks. Yeah, all these batwing mounts work stupidly well. It's really awesome, and I really hope that Cockroach 65 V3 frame stays around forever. Here's going to be my advice to you: buy a few extra Cockroach 65 V3 frames like now, right? God knows when they'll change the design and there won't be hookers on it anymore. And so have a few. Luckily, they're super durable, so you probably won't break that frame. But yeah, spend $12 whole and get yourself like 4 extra Cockroach 65 V3 frames, and then you'll be good to go forever. Because this is such a clean way of mounting a camera, really lightweight, with like no extra obstructions to thrust, like on all the carbon fiber frames. Like these batwing mounts are the way to mount a camera on a tiny whoop without any duct in view, and also the way to get the camera as far forward and as far down as you possibly can. What that does for you is allow you to fly lower to the ground much more consistently. These are the only way that I've been able to get the RC drift car footage as good as I have. And I know that kind of sounds like bullshit, but it really isn't, because I've flown thousands of batteries there. I've flown batteries with regular mounts. I've flown batteries with up front mounts. I've flown 65mm rigs, 75mm rigs. Having the camera all the way forward and as low as it can possibly go absolutely makes a difference. Like when it makes a difference in A, the way the flight footage looks, but B, in your ability to fly really low to the ground. When the camera is far forward and down, and you drop down on the deck and you're really close to the ground, you can see that the camera is all the way up here and the ground is right there. And so like in your view, the carpet comes up nice and high. When the camera is on top in the middle, the carpet will be all the way down here. And it's really hard when the carpet is down here to adjust your elevation by like 2 millimeters to go from like really low to hitting the ground and bouncing all over the place. And so if you've got a camera and a mount that pulls the carpet halfway up the frame when you're on the deck about to hit the ground, you know to blip the throttle a little bit. I know this sounds kind of pedantic, but it's absolutely the truth. Those of you that have printed a batwing and have flown it around, back me up on this. It legitimately makes flying crazy low to the ground way more, I want to say reliable, but that's not the word. Consistent. Way more consistent. And in the process, the flight footage looks better because you're filling a quarter of the frame with the carpet, and everybody watching is going to be like, holy shit, you're low to the ground. Also, when you do that, the carpet is moving pretty fast, or the ground, or whatever, and it gives you an incredible sense of speed. That's a trick that I've talked about a lot over the years. Always fly as low to the ground as you possibly can, because it gives this reference point on the bottom, and like even if you're not going very fast, it'll look like you're going really fast. and that just kind of amps up the energy and the excitement for like, you know, the typically freestyle flying that you're doing. So yeah, there you go, friends. Lots of other ways that you can support me over on there. There's a Teespring store with some fun shirts that you can buy, other random stuff. Yeah, hook a brother up, support me, and I'll support you. I'll help you not buy trash. How about that? It's the biggest thing that I do. P. Richard Scott's in the chat. What's up, homie? Brandon's Baked Beans says complacency. Yep, that's a good word. That's absolutely what caused this. 100 motherfucking %. P. Richard Scott says the only reason I came off of dual arming is because of Ciotti. It's true, man. It's true. Like last year, at some point last year, it might have been when I was flying his house, with a 5-inch rig. I hit a tree. I disarmed. That freed up the propellers. The quad fell out of the tree. I rearmed and I caught the damn thing before it got to the ground. And that, I believe that's what started the discussion about like pre-arm versus no pre-arm. And I was like, yeah, man, I've never had Patrick had pre-arm for a long time. I'd never used it. And I was like, yeah, man, just don't zero your throttle, man. It's super easy. You'll be completely fine. You have to not zero your throttle and not be an asshole, which Patrick's got that. He's good to go there. Unfortunately, I'm not. Blue Sky says, happy to see it wasn't worse yet. It could have been way worse. This sucks. Don't get me wrong. Like, this sucks. And, like, it really fucked up, like, my finger where, like, my cuticle is. So, like, this might actually be pretty bad. I don't know. I don't know if my fingernail is going to grow in all weird from now on. This could be really nasty, or it might just, I might have totally gotten away with it. I'm certainly not going to get like reconstructive surgery or some weird shit for like the top of my pinky, like whatever. I'll just look like a fucking freak forever. But yeah, this could have been so much worse. If I'd had 5.5-inch propellers on that rig, this would have been, I don't even want to think about it. Freelojo says, I'm glad that you've been able to get so much use from the CineGlide. Freelojo, did you send me the CineGlide? I don't remember. It was a long time ago. Or did you send... Somebody sent me a whole bunch of CineGlide parts. I have a ton of extra CineGlide parts. Higgy47 says, dumb question, what kind of desk chair do you use? This is actually a new one. This is actually Maggie's chair. I bought this for her for her birthday or for Christmas or something like that. And it looks, it's the fucking handsomest chair ever. She didn't find it to be. She came down and sat in my black desk chair the one day, like 2 weeks ago. And she was like, oh my God, that's comfy as hell. I want this chair. And I was like, yo, your chair is sexy as hell. I want your chair. And so we switched. I don't know what this is. This was an Amazon purchase, though. I think I just searched Amazon for, like, brown chair or something like that. The coolest thing about this chair that I forgot to show you is it's got this really cool stitching. It just makes it look fancy as shit. So, I got a handsome chair now, yo. And I'll admit, this chair is not as comfortable as my old-ass kind of ugly black chair. But, you know, whatever. I'll live with a cool-looking chair for a while, if it bothers me that much. I have, somebody in chat was like, you idiot, just twist the knob on the bottom and it'll make... I was complaining that the back of the... that I couldn't get the chair to recline back. And I can't. It doesn't have that... This is one of the super simple desk chairs with just the one single adjustment thing on the side, which makes it go up and down. The black chair has the three adjustment things, and the one of those three makes the bottom of the seat tilt back, which I really like. But somebody in the chat was like, dude, just turn the knob and it'll loosen the spring on the back. And I completely forgot about that it's spring loaded. The reason I forgot about it is I don't like to push against the spring. I like to actually lock the chair. You can take the little lever on the bottom and push it in, and that locks the chair. I prefer to get the chair adjusted correctly and then lock it and then be able to push against the locked back. But I can't do that on this chair, and so having this spring for the back of it be very loose is the second best. And so now you guys will be able to tell by how tall I am, how lazy I'm being, how tired I am. And at some point I'll flip over. So that's maxed out. That's hitting the stop right now. And so I can just, ignore my responsibilities and take a nap. I'm very tempted to just lay like that and pretend like I've fallen asleep, but I won't do that to you guys. I'm not that committed to the bit. Flirk in the Burk, thank you. Flirk in the Blurk, rather. Thank you again for the super chat. Elias says, what do you think about the RCinPower 0702 27,000 kV motors? And Chris Rosser's testing, they prefer the best, but nobody in my group uses them, which probably has a reason, maybe. I tested those 4 or 5 months ago. They make all the power in the world, but they're not efficient at all. If you keep watching Rosser's video and you get to the efficiency testing that he did, they are super inefficient. And so that's why nobody's running them, is because you don't get much runtime for them. And for racers, that really does matter. They're fun, but the other problem I have with them is that the motor shafts are undersized a little bit. So a lot of propellers will just fly off of them, and that's going to make them not all that durable. So yeah, they're if your top priority is power, there's nothing like them. I think there's even a 29,000 kV, which has a little bit more power even. But yeah, it's a hell of a motor. You just don't get much runtime. I ended up selling mine. Flurk in the Berg with a $2 super chat. He says, "Hi, yeah. Thank you, brother. Can you believe I pronounced what you typed there so perfectly?" Apache Smoke says, yeah, you're a cool guy now, LOL, but thanks for the shout out. You're certainly welcome, brother. Well deserved. FizzPV says, I had to relearn to play drums because of a finger injury to my middle finger in my right hand. Had to learn to play reverse traditional for about 5 years. Wow. Yeah, you know what's really annoying? When I was driving from getting my haircut to the to where I was gonna fly, the random thought popped into my head of like, you know what? I haven't played my drum set in a while. When I get home, I'm gonna play my drums. Nope. If you don't know, like, yes, you can, like, metal drummers will play from the shoulder. You can't get any like speed when you do that because you got to move your entire arm. You play drums with your fingers and with your wrist, and your pinky does a lot of the work. Like your pinky really triggers a lot of like the doubles on the stick. And so yeah, this is this is a mess. But I think once this heals, I'll be fine. If it doesn't, then it's funny you mention that. Then I can learn to play traditional old school grip in drums. It's usually on the left side, but traditional grip is like this in drumming, and it usually happens with your left hand, and then your right hand you play normal. And so I might need to learn to play like this with right hand traditional, which is super weird, but totally doable. Hey! What do you think of that? Not that I really play drums all that much, but a couple times a month I do sit down at the drum set, make a bunch of noise. Freelojo says, that was the last shirt from FPV Crate when they stopped. No shit. And I don't wear mine much either anymore. Do you not wear it much because you want it to last forever? Are you a total fucking weirdo like me? My favorite shirts I never wear. That's actually one of the really cool things about this live stream, is that I don't sweat during this live stream, and it's only for like 2 hours. So my like absolute favorite shirts, like I have a Jeremy Clarkson shirt with his face silk screened, making like a weird face, and then it says WWJCD. What would Jeremy Clarkson do on it? I think that's my yeah, I think that's my absolute favorite shirt. I only wear it on the live streams. And then I've got a couple of BBC licensed Top Gear shirts. One of them is the old school, like super classic I Am the Stig. And then another one is a Captain Slow shirt. Those are my other two absolute favorite shirts. I only wear them on the live stream. I have a bunch of other. It's you know, there's a scale, like from 1 to 10 how much I love a shirt. The closer they are to 1, the more I wear them. Because, you know, around like around the house where like I might sweat in them or fuck them up or whatever. Yeah. Ain't being broke great. It's not only being broke. It's that you can't get them anymore. Next time I find a shirt, I wish I would remember that, like, if I find a shirt that I really love and I'm buying it, I should buy like 3 of them, and then I pack 2 of them away, and then I can actually wear the damn things. Calvin says the Gep RC TC18 frame is great. Mobula 8 Whoop frame is hard to tune. Ah, okay. Mobula 8 Whoop frame is the one that's hard to tune. That's weird. I've had no problems with it. Did you check to make sure yours isn't broken? It was really hard for me to tell that mine was broken. But yeah, from a tuning perspective, I've had no problems at all. Interesting. Jason Levin says, I have the 04 version and it's a mess. You have the 04 version of what? Jay-Z says, I guess it's Jay's, says, are 1202 11,500 on 2S 2-inch props a good match? Mobula 8 frame, Goku 12 amp AIO with 04 Lite. 1202. Interesting. Yeah, those will be great. 12. Who makes a 1202? 11,500. Let's see if Google knows. Is there anything that Google doesn't know? RCinPower does. What? No shit. 1202 and a half. 11,500. Well, that's interesting. 2.5, 5, 7.5, 10, 12.5. So that's a motor that's 5 to 1 width to height ratio. That's a bit much. 3 to 1, 4 to 1 is where I try to stay for freestyle rigs. 5 to 1 is more of like a CineWhoop kind of motor. But if you're doing you said 04 Lite, it's kind of a CineWhoop. So yeah, those motors are actually going to be really good. They're going to stay cool all the time. Those are going to be like super consistent. Every time you go full throttle, you get the exact same amount of power. They're never going to heat up. So that's kind of cool. And it looks like Happy Model has a 1202 and a half as well. And they also make it an 11,500. I hadn't looked. Oh, you know what the problem with these motors is going to be? The mounting. These are going to be 4-bolt mount. Yeah, they sure are. Yep. Yeah, so these aren't going to mount up to tiny whoop frames. These are going to be like toothpick only motors because of the motor mounting. That's a shame. Yeah, I can see that that's a 4-bolt mount as well. That's why these motors haven't been on my radar, is because they're not the 3-bolt mounting that'll work on a tiny whoop. But on a if you're doing like a 2-inch toothpick, yeah, these things will rail. Looks like Flywoo has one as well. And again, 4-bolt. Yeah, so these are a well-known toothpick motor, I'm sure. But I haven't been in the toothpick world in a while. Getting back into it, though. Blue Sky says, have you ever undermounted a camera for filming drift cars? Not sure how you do it, but might give a new perspective. I haven't, but if you're going to undermount a camera, it's going to be in down tilt. Realistically, you're going to need to put your FPV cam into down tilt as well. And essentially what you're going to be doing is looking straight down. That's going to be... It's actually going to be really cool if you can get used to it, because it'll give you that Mavic straight down kind of camera look, but with way more maneuverability. The hardest thing is going to be that with the camera mounting down here, like just this is like the direction the camera's pointing, right? With it pointing down like that, so you put the nose down, you start flying forward. Now you got your cool down looking thing. If you roll, you're gonna lose that camera angle. So you're gonna have to coordinate your sticks all the time, and that's gonna be a weird way to fly. I assume that you'll get used to it, but every single turn that you're gonna have to do, you're gonna have to really work on mixing yaw with roll. If you just roll, the camera is gonna like rotate out. And here's what's gonna be super weird, is if you roll left, the camera is gonna look right. Right? Think about that. It's looking down like this. And then if you roll left, so that's gonna be weird, bro. But maybe you can get, that's just a matter of like, you always have to, like, you'll do it once and you'll be like, oh God, and then you'll start coordinating your sticks and you'll get used to it. Could be really cool, right? That's a perspective that we kind of haven't seen much, is like FPV, but looking down with actual down tilt, right? We've seen lots of zero up tilt stuff, but down tilt is the next level of like trying to get that top down kind of almost like a Mavic, right? Sort of look. The photography drone pilots that fly the Criterium racing and just cycling in general, it's a really cool... So they'll go... like the cameras on the Mavics are fairly zoomed in, low field of view. And so those guys will go like 500-600 feet up and then just look straight down. And then they just fly straight forward, turn yaw left, yaw right, and it's a really cool camera angle showing like the gap between the riders, and it's actually really cool. So yeah, down tilt is super interesting, but boy, that's gonna be hard to fly. Yukon FPV says, problem I noticed, can't turtle mode as good as you can with crown frame Fractal 65. Yeah, wait, problem I noticed, can't turtle as good, as you can with, yeah, the one of the coolest things about the crown frame is those little spikes pull the frame up off the ground a little bit, and it makes turtle mode a lot easier. With powerful enough motors, though, turtle mode should be no issue. It looks like you're running a Fractal 65 frame. That frame is going to make turtle mode more difficult because all that carbon fiber on the bottom is blocking a lot of thrust. So that frame is going to make your life a lot more difficult in terms of turtle mode and everything else, really. Those frames don't really do anything as good as a regular old plastic frame, unfortunately. They seem good in theory, but in actuality, they put a lot more stress on your motors during crashes. The camera mount is very floppy and all over the place. Your FPV camera is going to like rotate like this. It's also going to be able to roll back and forth like this, and that makes it really difficult to fly. It's kind of heavy, so it's that in itself, you're going to lose some efficiency. You're going to lose some flight performance. And then, yeah, like I said a second ago, having carbon fiber down below the motors is going to block additional thrust. Carbon fiber is fairly non-aerodynamic too, right? Like it's a big flat piece of carbon. When they do usually not on the Mobula 8 frame, but on sensibly designed tiny whoop frames, these supports that are down in the thrust are designed to be tall instead of wide. And so by tall, a bunch of the thrust is going to slip right past it. When you have something that's like this, like carbon fiber down there, it's super not aerodynamic. And it actually makes a really big difference when you put all those things together. So getting it off of that fractal frame is going to help quite a bit in a lot of different ways. Andrew Taylor says, Jim Bob Mothy tag. So Jimmy Bobby, maybe, says, new to discussion, can you show us the camera mount on drone? What camera mount on what drone? And type CiottiFPV into your chat message so that it lights up in orange for me so that I can see your answer to that question, so that I can help you out. Freelojo says, yep, that was me, and the parts. Thank you, dude. Very, very cool. Yeah, it's a really interesting rig. Bob, I just recently, I banged up the camera mounting plates, and that's the one piece that I don't have any extras of. So I messaged Bob, and I was like, hey, man, you don't happen to have any of these floating around, do you? He said he doesn't, but he's going to send me the STL, and once he sends that to me, I'll start bugging Ryan Harrow, who has a CNC, and see if he has any 2mm carbon. He can cut me an extra set of camera plates for the damn thing, because I banged them up, smack them into a wall like an idiot. You Can FPV says, fart free chair. Uriel says, you can sit without... Oh, God. I'm not reading the rest of that. Wrecker FPV says, I'm building a Cinelog 25. I would like to buy the highest quality analog FPV camera for it. Is there something with superior performance, low light, good optics, big sensor, etc.? Not really. There's not like one analog camera that's better than the rest. There's a whole bunch of different analog cameras that all have different strengths and weaknesses. There are some that are really good in low light. Those are typically called starlight cameras. There are some that have like a sensor in them that has more TV lines, a higher TVL rating. You'll see like 1200 TVL versus most of the cameras that have like 800. Maybe those higher TV line ones have a little bit of a better image. The problem is you then put that into a VTX and send it through an antenna and it bounces off walls. And like by the time it gets to your goggles and your eyes and your DVR, they all kind of look the same. So the high TV line camera thing is like, I've never personally seen a difference. There are cameras that are heavier and a little bit more durable. There are cameras that are lighter and a little bit more fragile. But yeah, there's not like one camera to rule them all. Some of these cameras are really good inside. Some of them where it's a little bit darker. Some of them are really good outside where it's a lot brighter. So yeah, there's no one size fits all. Find like 3 or 4 cameras that you're interested in. Some of them are heavy, some of them are light. So like find 3 or 4 that you're interested in and just search for the names of those cameras here on YouTube, and you'll find people that have reviewed those, and you'll be able to look at flight footage from them and then pick. Or just close your eyes and point, because analog looks like hell anyway, and at the end of the day, it's not going to really be all that different. Hell, choose the one that's in the color that's your favorite or that matches the quad that you're building, and that's as good of a metric as anything else, to be honest. There are some analog cameras that do absolutely suck, so do a little bit of research, but don't get super hung up on it. Analog is going to look... Analog has grown enough over the last 10 or so years that we've been using it, where any analog stuff that's currently being sold is like top notch, because the really shitty stuff has had plenty of time to just go away forever. So yeah, for me, the biggest thing with an analog camera is how well they handle low light. And so, for example, on my analog 5-inch freestyle rigs, which one of them is down here, I actually run... It's not a full-blown Starlight camera, but it's almost a Starlight camera. You would not want to put this on a tiny whoop though. This is like a full frame kind of heavy analog camera. But this is the Foxier Toothless Nano, and it's, like I said, it's not a full-blown Starlight camera that you can fly like in the dark, but it's a really sensitive sensor, and so it's really good in low light, but then it also works in middle of the day. So that's the, and the low light handling is in lux. You'll see, like, I think it's in the spec sheet, I think it's the sensitivity of the camera. Just look for the lux measurement, and then it's going to be like 0 point, and then most cameras are going to be 0.01 as the lux rating. This camera is 0.001, and then I believe a proper Starlight camera is 0.0001. That will not work well during the daytime though. So that's like only a nighttime camera. This guy here is somewhere in the middle where it works totally fine during the day and it's awesome at night. This is the camera that was on the rig when I flew the fireworks in the pitch black. And like the ground was pitch black, but like all the street lights were lit up, and I could see like the light pollution on the horizon. So I was able to confidently fly in the dark, which is when they set off fireworks. This is a few years ago, and fly the thing home. But it was a little challenging. You can't, like, if there was a tree in front of me, I wouldn't have seen it at all. But luckily, fireworks happen up above the trees. So, yeah, don't go crazy trying to find the best analog FPV camera. Do a little bit of research, buy one, or maybe buy two, and then you'll have a couple options. They're fairly inexpensive. And you're going to break it anyway at some point. B-Mud Skipper says, I really enjoy the RCinPower Smooks 1404 6000 kV on my 2S 4-inch toothpick. I get 10-minute flights, oh my god, from an 18650 2S DIY battery BT 3.0. That's a super interesting setup. I'm assuming that's a 4-inch bi-blade. That's a good call. That's a good motor for a 4-inch bi-blade. 1404 is a really good motor size for 3-inch freestyle rigs with 3-inch tri-blades. So then 4-inch bi-blade is pretty much the same weight, the same amount of drag as a 3-inch tri-blade. And so the 1404 stator size is great. 6000 kV on 2S, it's probably a little bit low, but if you're running this thing on 18650s, that tells me that you want to get long flight times, and so that's kind of perfect. You don't want a ton of RPM because it's obviously some sort of like a long range or cruising kind of rig, and so yeah, that's a good powertrain. That's a well matched powertrain. The propeller matches up well with the motor. And they match up well with the voltage, and so yeah, that's why it flies good. If you've got a rig that flies better than the rest of yours, it's because of the propeller, motor, battery, all-up weight combo. Those four things, the intersection of those four things is like 95% of the flight performance of a quad. Fuck the tune, fuck your rates, fuck what version of Betaflight you're on, if it's even on Betaflight. None of that other shit matters anywhere near as much as prop, motor, battery, all-up weight combo. Those four things, that's like the golden something that has the number 4. I was going to say Trident, but Trident only has 3. It's the golden quadricycle. I don't know, something that has 4 of something. Frosty says CiottiFPV is going to be the next George Garrido drumming one-handed. No, I'm not. Sporny says my 1.8-inch always throttles up when in free fall. If it's on props out, switch it to props in. Props in dives better. Free falls better. There's not a whole lot other than that you can do. If it's in a tiny whoop frame, that's going to make this. All right, so let's take a step back. Why does that happen, right? This is the best thing that I can do for you. When you're zero throttle, why does the quad sometimes spin the motors up? It's either because it's confused or it's trying to stay stable. The PID loop's job, the PID loop is error correction. You can just never call it a PID loop again and just start calling it error correction. And it's gonna like help you understand what the hell is going on way better, because PID loop doesn't mean anything to anyone other than like 5 engineers on Earth. I'm being insane, but there's probably 5,000 engineers on Earth. But like PID loop for most people doesn't mean shit. Error correction means something. It's correcting error. So you've got a quad, you put it on the ground, and you arm it. And the motors start to spin up. What the hell? Why is that? It's not meant to sit on the ground. These are built to fly, right? And so when it's on the ground, it's confused. The ground is pushing up against it. It doesn't understand that. It wants to be up in the air. When it's up in the air, it can go down or it can go up. When it's on the ground, it can only go up. And so when it's on the ground and it's armed, the error correction doesn't know what the hell's going on. What it's actually doing is it's trying to break. It's seeing some sort of a movement or a vibration, and it's slowing down one of the motors to try to get it to go down a little bit. But since it's sitting on the ground, it won't go down. And so if it can't go down, it's going to go up, and it's going to do that on the other side, right? If this thing that's flying detects error, let's say the error is the wind that does that. The wind hits it up here and pushes it up like this. It's going to break this motor to try to get it to go down, and it's going to spin up this motor to get it to go up, because what has happened? It's encountered error and it wants to push back against it, right? That's what the error correction loop does. And so when it's sitting on the ground, then also when you set your PID loop to 4K or 8K, what does that mean? That's 4,000 cycles per second. So minimum 4,000 times a second, or 3,200 in the BMI 270's case, thousands of times per second, the gyro is detecting these little tiny movements. And so when it's on the ground, if there's any vibration, which there's always vibration because there's motors that are never perfectly balanced, there's propellers that are never perfectly balanced, every little bit of vibration, it's going to try to correct. That's the error correct. It's error, right? No error is absolutely dead steady. Perfectly. It doesn't matter if it's moving, but it's not. The gyro detects this motion. And so if it's just cruising perfectly straight ahead, that's kind of zero error. And that's what it wants. It always wants zero error. Any kind of vibrations, it doesn't understand that it doesn't understand that the props are going to be a little bit out of balance, or the motor is going to be out of balance, or you're going to have a screw that's not quite tight, right? And so it's going to push against all of that error. This is why PID tuning is important. This is why filter tuning is important. We're trying to tell the error correction loop what is real and what is fake, basically, with the PID and the filter tuning. But when it's sitting on the ground, it's never going to understand that, and it's always going to slowly ramp the motors up. In free fall, which is what you asked about, in free fall, you've got, especially with a tiny whoop frame, usually you've got the camera looking damn near straight down, and so the wind from the free fallness, the wind is going to hit these guards, and it's going to do all kinds of weird shit. It's going to get all swirly. If you're diving down the side of a building, the wind from the earth is going to be hitting the building and doing all kinds of weird shit. And so as you fall down through the turbulent air that these are producing, or the turbulent air in the world, the error correction is going to try to make corrections. So otherwise, if you turn the PID loop off, if you turn the error correction off and you do a dive, it's going to fucking do this all the way down, and it's going to be a hot mess because there's nothing to fix it, right? You need the PID loop for it to be stable on the way down. And so during free fall, you've got a lot of turbulent air. You're not cutting through, you know, like when you're just flying like this, it's relatively like static air. It's blowing this way, or it's blowing this way, or it's blowing this way, and that's easy to kind of handle. When you're falling straight down, you're falling through like pockets of air that are stacked up on top of each other, right? And there's all kinds of weird turbulence, and you've got turbulence from your own quad. Even without the ducts, there's still going to be turbulence, right? Like a school bus style freestyle frame. Look at this big stupid thing, right? When it's free falling, there's this is creating all kinds of shit coming off the sides of it. So there's always turbulence. How much turbulence there's going to be is how much frame you've got. How much weird shit do you have that if you look at, you go like, what if the air hits that? Well, that's going to be a mess. It's going to go like this, right? And so in free fall, if you don't want your flight footage to look like hell, right? If you want the cleanest possible free fall and you don't want the props to spin up at all, turn your PIDs all the way down. And then it'll fall down like this, but it won't spin the motors up, but it'll be falling down like this, right? So the more aggressive the PIDs are, the earlier it's going to try to attack that error. And so it's kind of a balance. The props in, props out thing, I don't understand at all. I don't know if anybody understands it, but it's been tested. I got it from Mark Spatz, UAV Tech, a year or two ago. He put a video out talking about something that he noticed kind of randomly when trying to get CineWhoops to drop elevation without ramping the motors up, is that if you go to props in, for some reason it works a lot better, and boy is he right. And tiny whoops, it seems like it's the same situation, which makes sense. You know, a CineWhoop looks a lot like this, right? It's got a big, ugly piece of plastic in front of the propellers, and that's going to create all kinds of turbulence. And so, yeah, for whatever reason, props in drops elevation better. And that's like a free, easy thing that you can just do now, right? So definitely give that a try. That'll probably have the biggest impact on it. But yeah, that's why it's happening. That's why if you're ever at zero throttle and the motors start to spin up on their own, that's why that's going on. The gyro is detecting some sort of movement, and then the error correction is trying to fix that. It's trying to keep it steady. It's trying to do its job and be an amazing camera platform that produces incredibly stable, footage. So there you go. Great question. Thank you for letting me talk about that, because that is something that not many people understand or have ever like remotely thought through. And it's really important. And if you understand why it's happening, you'll have a much better chance at actually fixing it. So yeah, man, good question, brother. Jason Levin says my T-Cube is the 04 and my Mobula 8 04 broke yesterday. What broke on it? The 04 camera? If the 04 camera broke, send it back to DJI. They're fixing them for free. It's insane. Jimmy Bobby says, can you show us how the batwing and how it attaches to the frame? How is Jello? No Jello at all. And it just pops onto the little hooks. This is the 04 one. The other batwing mounts exactly the same. It's just set up for a different camera. And yeah, it just hooks on. You know what? That actually reminds me. I need to take a picture of this for the Etsy page. But yeah, it just goes on there. And so you can kind of see, you see how the angle of the frame See how the frame kind of angles downwards? So that's why there's a little bit of up tilt on all the mounts. And so like this right here, this is the 0 up tilt version of the 04 mount. So if you see this thing sitting flat, it's obviously 0 up tilt, right? See how that's a perfectly vertical line? So if you order the 0 up tilt mount, this is the one that you'll get. And like what I was saying, you can actually just kind of force it and you can get a little bit of up tilt. That's maybe like 5 degrees of up tilt there. If I really kind of pull it off the bottom here, there's a chance this is the one that I E6000. I'm not totally sure, but let's see. You can just kind of pull it forward on the little hookers, and there's not much. But yeah, you have a little bit of adjustability there. Whether or not it goes back to the way it was after 10 minutes of flying, I'm not totally sure. But, you know, just order the 0 degree and the 10 degree and the 20 degree, and you'll be supporting me a little bit more. And then you'll have a couple different options. Again, huge shout out to Crom and Yin Yang and Timmons and anybody else that's been a part of the Batwing adventure. They're just so cool. It's just such an amazing way of mounting a camera up front with no ducts in view. I'm gonna leave this out. I'm gonna put this over on the coffee table where I take pictures of shit. And I'm gonna grab one of the other ones with the regular 04 mount. So this is there's one HD0 and then there's 2. Jesus, why do I have 3? These are the analog drift car chasing builds. I need to tear one of these apart. There's no reason to have 3 analog rigs. It was probably from when I was doing testing. Oh no, that's right. No. There's just 2. Yeah, so it's analog, walk snail, and HD0 is this little kit. This is a bit much. I should sell this HD0 one. I'm never going to use it. Maybe I will. Maybe I'll do a giveaway for it. That last giveaway we did went pretty well. In the past, I've done, you know, there's the whole like giveaway situation on YouTube right now where like if you go to our website and spend every $5 you spend gets you a ticket to win this $100,000 car. And then, you know, YouTube channels with 10 million followers will be able to make a couple bucks on doing those giveaways. When that became a thing a few years ago, I tried it a couple times. I did a couple like 5-inch and 3-inch giveaways, and I just completely lost my ass on them. There's not many people entered, and I ended up, you know, getting rid of. I should have just sold the rigs, but instead I got $50 in giveaway entries, and then had to give them away. So I stopped doing them pretty quickly. But we did one of those giveaways a week or two ago with a tiny whoop, which is, you know, like a 5-inch build. I'll have like $300-400 tied up in. A tiny whoop I've got $100 tied up in. And so we did one of that style of giveaway the other day. And I think I at least broke even, which is awesome. So maybe I'll do the same thing with that. We'll see. I'm not doing it right now, that's for sure. Stuff that's coming to the Etsy store that, since you're watching the live stream, you get first crack at. RCinPower 1003 22,000 kV motors that have both the 3-bolt and the 4-bolt mounting on the bottom. This is an HD0. I think this is the 90 frame per second camera. Don't quote me on that. But you probably know from just looking at it. It's the black camera with the full body. And then this is used. And then I don't know which HD0. It's broken now. I don't know which HD0 VTX this is. If it's broken, I'll refund you, obviously. This is going to be going up there. I still have this Hero 8 battery. Just if you have a Hero 8, I'll ship this to you for $5. That's what it costs for shipping, with an extra door and a 3D printed door. I think that's all that I have sitting right here. Oh, if you have a iFlight Defender, hit me up. I've got some extra parts for you and an extra case. There you go. There's some of the stuff that's coming to an Etsy store near you. YouTube chat just did the thing and scrolled me to the bottom for no reason. Scrolling back up to try to find my place. Capital C says, I have had lots of vibration issues with the Mobula 804 builds. I've built 2, got rid of the jello with ND filters, but still have vibrations, check motors, props, AIO mounting. Jello, I don't consider jello to be a vibration problem. I consider jello to be a lack of ND filter problem. Because in super bright daylight, you'll get jello with damn near any FPV quad. 5-inch, like, whatever, with no ND filter to bring the shutter speed down. So for me, vibration issues and jello are 2 totally separate things. So what are you having? Are you having legitimate vibration issues where it's like a PID tuning thing and it's feeding back into itself and it's flying away? Or do you just have jello? The solution for jello is ND filters. There's no way around it. In the middle of the day, the sunlight is way too bright and the shutter speed cranks up to like 1/1000 or 1/2000. And there's always going to be some sort of jiggling going on in an FPV quad. And that's going to show up as jello. That's just the way it is. You specifically said, I'm dumb. Got rid of jello with ND filters, but still have vibrations. Check motors, props, AIO mounting. Weird, man. Yeah, I've done a couple of these builds in the Mobula 8 frames, and they've been. I haven't done a couple builds, but I've transferred this build between a couple different Mobula 8 frames, and it's been absolutely fine. Interesting. Bren Lugo says the Mobula 8 frame allows... Oh, you're right. You're right, son of a bitch. Yeah, it's got the dual mounting. Good call. Good call. I totally forgot about that. So does the HDLRC frame. And the 4-hole mounting probably works a lot better than the 3-hole mounting. The 3-hole mounting kind of sucks on this HDLRC frame, if I'm honest. Capital C says, I can't figure it out. Weird. Yeah. Proper vibration problems are usually caused in this order. They're usually caused by props, motors, frame, and then like improper builds, right? Like you've got something pushed up against the AIO, so it's being hard mounted. It can't float on the rubber grommets. Bad gyro. That's the order of operations that I troubleshoot proper actual vibration problems that make the thing hard to tune or make it fly away. And so that's the flow chart. That's how you troubleshoot that. Fresh props. If fresh props don't help, try a different propeller from hopefully a different manufacturer. Motors, are your motor shafts bent? Are those motors that you've got just out of balance from the factory? Sometimes that happens on little tiny motors. They're very hard to balance. Boom, 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 boom. Just keep going down the flow chart there. And eventually you will find it, because I don't have some kind of a special setup here, and I've had multiple Mobula 8 framed 04 builds that are perfect. So the problem's there somewhere. You just got to keep throwing money at it, throwing time and money at it. FPV says you're 100% right about Fractal, but I was able to do the TGS with it with dying motors. TGS? I'm not sure I know what TGS is. Kelvin says, P.S. I checked my Patreon account. Looks like you're still getting my monthly child support. Thank you, brother. Yeah, Patreon is continuing to do something weird at the beginning of the month where they're kicking people off of the monthly recurring onto single month only. So if your name has changed colors on my Discord and you don't have access to my whole Discord, Patreon gotcha. If you don't mind, go on there and go back to monthly, because that's what keeps this show on the road. Blue Sky FPV didn't tag me, but I just happened to see it. He says fractal frames are solid frames. They are solid. That is true. You'll most likely enjoy it. That's a super subjective thing. The people I know who fly fractal frames really like them. I was one of those people. When I first, we're going like years. We're going like 2, 3, 4 years back. When I first bought and moved to fractal frames, I absolutely loved them. I thought it was the best thing since sliced bread. As I flew them more and more, and as I flew them in tandem with plastic framed tiny whoops, I started to see the cracks, and not actual cracks, but like, I can't think of the word, but I started to see the problems, there we go, with the frame. I started bending motor shafts a lot more often because the motors are mounted to really solid carbon fiber instead of plastic, which will give, right? When you smash into something with a tiny whoop frame, the duct will bend in, and then the duct will eventually push against the propeller. That propeller transfers that energy into the motor. So if you've got a motor that's mounted to a plastic frame, the motor is going to be able to give a little bit, and so that energy is going to get like spread out over time. On a carbon fiber frame, all that energy dumps into the motor, and the motor is being held completely solid by that carbon fiber, and so the motor shaft bends. So you'll get bent motor shafts a lot more often, which is what I started to notice. Then I noticed that I wasn't flying nearly as good because the camera is moving all over the place. The camera mounting setup, it's designed to be super lightweight, and but it's not designed to hold the camera perfectly level and perfectly straight ahead. And so the camera can rotate like this, and it can also wobble back and forth like this. And so you'll notice, like, why do I miss if I'm trying to shoot like a small little gap? Why do I keep missing this? Well, it's because the camera is looking at this. You're shooting the gap based on the center of your frame, the center of what you're seeing in your goggles, but you actually need to be shooting the gap over here because the camera has moved a little bit like this. I tried to fix that with E6000. The problem with that is, like, when you're E6000 it down, how do you know if the camera is pointing perfectly ahead? You're just sitting there like eyeballing it. And you can get pretty close with eyeballing it, and for most pilots, that's probably going to be okay. But I've been flying for 10 years, and so for me, I've gotten a little bit better than most pilots. And so for me, if I'm going to shoot a gap that's this big with a tiny whoop that's this big, the fucking center point is super, super, super important. Most pilots won't notice that, but here's the thing. It absolutely makes a difference. You're absolutely going to shoot a gap with the center of you're going to try to center the gap as much as you possibly can. And if the quad is actually crabbing sideways the whole time, that's going to create a problem. Whether or not you notice it is a different story, but you're not going to hit gaps as consistently. The carbon fiber blocking thrust and creating a less efficient, less thrusty setup, there's no argument against that. I mean, that's just a fact, right? Like, if you believe in the weird world of alternate facts that almost half of this country is living in, then okay, maybe you can refute that. But for, the people that are here on Earth that believe in actual real things, that's just a fact, that's just science. So, and so over time, over like the next probably about year or two, I moved away from the fractal frames in a freestyle setting, and had much better performance with plastic frames, better durability, more thrust, more efficiency, right? I kept using the fractal frames for cinematic tiny whoops, and this is when I started chasing the RC drift cars, and now this is when I really started to notice the less efficiency, the less thrust, and the camera the camera kind of moving around a little bit. And this is when Timmons and I started working on the batwing mount and switching those fractal cinematic, basically RC drift car chasing rigs, over from the fractal frame to the batwing setup was another significantly noticeable jump in flight performance. More run, the efficiency thing became super obvious because I was flying it first of all, I was flying 30 or 40 batteries every single Thursday for over a year. And so there was that like massive amount of data that I was seeing, right? And I was flying, and like the runtime became really important to me, especially because at that time I was doing the walk snail rigs, which are now too heavy and they don't have enough runtime. So now I'm super sensitive to the amount of runtime that I'm getting, right? So like when I get 2 minutes and 30 seconds versus 2 minutes and 20 seconds, I really notice it, right? So like my brain is now like really noticing this thing. And so like when I got off, when I was flying both builds head to head to compare them, it was super obvious. I was getting like 20, 30 more seconds on the batwing mount setup with no obstructions to the thrust and less weight, right? Not having that additional carbon fiber on the bottom makes it lighter. And so, and also the extra long screws, right? On the fractal builds, you have to run longer motor screws because they have to go all the way through the carbon fiber and then all the way through the plastic duct. And all these little things stack on top of each other, and it makes a significant difference. So, yeah, here's the long and short of it. Like from someone who's done thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of batteries, who's not sponsored by anybody that makes these frames, right? I have no reason to lie about this. Well, I nowadays I do have a reason to lie about it, to be completely transparent with you. Fractal ripped off my logo, and they make this stupid ass shirt that says Fractal sucks in a rip off version of my logo, and that pisses me off. It legitimately does, still to this day. They continue to sell it. They know damn well that I'm not okay with it, and so it's obviously a fuck you. If you read the description on their website, it's obviously a fuck you to me. And so today, sitting here, absolutely I have a reason to lie. I'm not that kind of person that's going to disparage a product just because the company that makes it is being a dick towards me. Whether or not you choose to believe that, that's on you. But up until they made that t-shirt, I said this exact same thing over and over and over again. So there was a time where I had absolutely no reason to lie. The long and short of it is that when it comes to tiny whoops, these are light and small enough that we can use a molded frame. A plastic molded frame will not work on something this big or a 3-inch rig. It's not the correct material. The properties of the material is not right for something this big and this heavy. Carbon fiber absolutely is. And that's really the main thing that we're hitting. Tiny whoops, the way that we build them, the way that we fly them, the way that we crash them, how much they weigh, we're very lucky that they're small enough and that we can use them with molded plastic. Molded plastic is a dream because you get to do a mold. It's not a flat sheet of carbon fiber that you have to cut like a fucking caveman, right? Molded plastic is amazing. You can do all... Why do you think the Avata 2 flies for 15 to 20 minutes? And like any Cinewhoop that we try to build, we're lucky as hell if we get 10 minutes. One of the big things is that DJI was able to make that thing super aerodynamic because they have the resources to mold a frame for it. And so they can make the standoffs really aerodynamic. They can make the body really aerodynamic because they're not a bunch of fucking nerd hobbyists in their basements with a CNC machine dealing with some other material that's not the perfect material, right? We're super lucky that with Tiny Whoops, we can use plastic, molded plastic, as a material for our frames. And to not do what we've learned from thousands and thousands of hours of of our whole community, right? If you don't believe me, look at the racers. There's not a single racer that's won a single race with a fractal frame. The end, right? Like, there is no argument to that. The racers fly what performs the absolute best, and they have a clock, and they have thousands of laps on that clock to compare to. And so for freestyle, yeah, okay, or for cinematic, it's a little bit of a different situation than racing, but it's not different enough that a carbon fiber frame really makes any sense. What I will say is that the Hachidori frame design is a much better way to have a carbon fiber frame on a tiny whoop, but it still has some of the same problems, and it's still not as good as the plastic frames. None of the racers run the Hachidori frames. It's a cool frame. It basically, the Hachidori setup, it has a carbon fiber brace very similar to this HGLRC 2-inch frame. How the hell did that happen? It's very similar to this style of a brace, but then the ducts mount internally. The ducts don't retain their standoffs. And so 1, 2, 3, 4 standoffs are gone. So the only thing blocking the thrust on the Hachidori frame is this carbon fiber, which is a lot less significant than the way that the fractal frames do it with this and the regular frame supports, right? So on a fractal frame, you get all of the obstruction that you get from a regular plastic frame, and then you get even more obstruction from the carbon fiber, which is thin but wide, and that's not what you want. The fractal frame would work a lot better if instead of like 1 or 2 millimeter, whatever the hell it is, they went to like 3 or 4 millimeter thick and then made it thinner in this direction, right? That's what most of the tiny whoop frames do, is the supports are aerodynamically designed. They're taller than they are wide. And so there's like the full kind of, and you know, again, this is based on me flying a absurd amount of batteries. This is based on me talking to a super active community over on our Discord channel. Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of live streams with conversations going on here. And again, I'm not sponsored by anybody that's sending me any of these frames for free or pressuring me to not shit talk them. I don't have a reason to. I don't care. I fly what works the best, period. If you don't believe that, that's your problem. Anybody that's been around me for any significant amount of time will back me up on this. So, you know, if you choose not to believe that, that's on you. You're only hurting yourself, to be really honest. So, you know, go ahead. Freelojo says, not having the camera plates was how I ended up with his prototype and all the parts. Interesting. Striker says, in terms of analog cams, any recommendations for larger quads, 3 to 5 inches, that you like that aren't expensive? Have you done any latency testing and all? No, I don't have a way of doing latency testing. I'm also not super sensitive to latency. Foxier, I don't even know if they still make it or sell it, but the analog camera that I have on all my big stuff is the Foxier Toothless Nano. 0.001 lux, great in low light, totally works during the day. Apparently it's a very low latency camera as well. Pretty much all of the analog cameras are super low latency. So yeah. CiottiFPV says, I really like the Ratel 2 on my tiny whoop. I've heard great things about the Ratel, the Caddx Ratel cameras from a, like, what they look, the way that they look in the goggles perspective. The biggest ding on the Caddx Ratels was that they broke a lot. I don't know if maybe they got that figured out. Maybe they've got their quality control in a lot better place since they've been working with DJI. But yeah, I never went with the Caddx Ratel cameras because so many people complained about them failing. CiottiFPV says, no, we got that. B-Mud Skipper says, yes, sir, Biblade 4-inch, GemFan 4024. I made it to cruise, very flowy. Yep, I could tell. Andrew Taylor says the golden foursome. There we go. That sounds weird. Sporny says Cockroach 82 with 04. If you were the one having vibration problems, the frame is the issue. The Cockroach 82 frame, apparently it rattles if you don't put foam around the inside of it. So, Sporny, if you were the one having vibration issues, get rid of that frame. FizzPV says, sent 2 pics on Discord. Feel free to show them on stream. Where at on the Discord? You Can Have PV says, Skittles Dan said props out is better for whoops yesterday. Now I'm confused. Props out is better in low power tiny whoop scenarios, or probably in racing scenarios, which is where he is. He lives in the world of racing. So racers run props out. Basically, the quickest way I can explain it is that when you roll and yaw really hard, if your props in, the outside rear motor has to do both the roll and the yaw. When you go to props out, the right rear motor handles yaw, I think it is, and then no, the right rear motor is going to handle the roll, and then the left rear motor is going to handle the yaw. And so if you're racing, or if you're just doing really hard turns like this, then props out is going to give you a little bit more of an advantage, because it's going to share the yaw and the roll with 2 different motors. Props in does, in my opinion, freestyle better. Mainly it drops altitude better, but it has the potential to overload that outside rear motor. If you run a powertrain that has enough power, you're totally fine, which I do and have for a long time, and I've had absolutely no issues for literally years with props in. But yeah, that's the situation. If you're more of a racing focused than freestyle focused pilot, try props out. Actually, what I think you should do is try props in, and if you don't have a problem with it, if you don't have a situation where it's... So if you're overloading this rear motor, the way that you can tell is when you're flying around, if you do a really hard turn like this, and the thing comes off set point and like almost falls out of the air, that's this motor running out of power. And so if you're having that situation, change over to props out, and then you get to decide, what do you want? Do you want to be able to turn harder like this, or do you want better dive performance? For me, I want better dive performance, and if I turn so hard that it overloads that outside motor, I just make a mental note, don't turn that hard next time, because I want these things to dive really clean. I want the ability to take my tiny whoop to a 50-story building and be locked all the way down the damn thing. That's just me. There's no wrong answers. There's no better. It's just different, right? Like, we talk about that all the time here. And so, yeah, keep that in mind. There's very rarely a better. There's just different. And so find people that are willing to talk about the differences, rather than just like, you should do this, this is better. Like, every once in a while, sure. If there's a whole bunch of products that suck and then one really good product comes out, awesome. That's better. Props in versus props out, that's a scenario where the better is just, it's just wrong. There is no better. There's just different. So, and, you know, Dan either hasn't spent the time on props in to kind of figure this out, that it is a situation where there's 2 different options, or he just wanted to give somebody a quick answer, and he just said, you know, props out is better because that's what I fly. And that's, you know, that's super common in the world, and especially in FPV, right? Go to Facebook groups, go to Reddit, and you'll find hundreds of people saying, my way is the best way because it's best for me. And, you know, they're either in a hurry, or they don't understand, or they just don't care to give the full kind of situation and explain that, you know, this one thing does this better, this other thing does this better. You decide. This is also one of the benefits of long form content, right? This is why short form content will be the death of all of us. In a fucking 30-second reel or story or whatever, you don't have enough time to give the actual situation. So what do? You just go for clicks and you say, my way is the best way. You should all do it this way. Click my affiliate links. And that's sort of the end of it. So careful with that. Find long form content if you want to actually learn something and have stuff that works better. Sporty says, it's holding the throttle for up to 5 to 6 seconds, even when I flatten out the dive. I think you need to get off that frame, brother. Get off that frame. Get into a frame that we know works. The Mobula 8 frame has been great for me. I'm going to be trying out this HDLRC frame really soon here. Yeah, I would get off. I would get off of that frame, to be honest. B-Mud Skipper says, is it possible for you to test a whoop props in front and props out rear? I would like the test to learn more. Unfortunately not. Betaflight does not have that. There is no setting to have props in and props out. And so you just can't do it. Michael Blade says, I've been looking at those batwing videos. What? I've been looking at those batwing videos that reminds me, I want to build me one. What batwing videos? Me flying the batwing? Or like searching batwing on YouTube and then there's a bunch of people with like what is the batwing? It's the airplane thing, right? Batwing. No, it's the wing of a bat. Hold on. Batman, Batwing. What was it was this thing. Fuck yeah, it was this thing. That's right. Yeah. This is my youth. This is everything. My God. Yeah, that's right. This is the Batwing. Yeah. Right. Got it. Just had to remind myself. I'm getting old, guys. I'm 44. I don't remember shit from 20 fucking years ago. Sporny says you could wait with the giveaway until enough tickets are sold. That would be smart. Freelojo with a $10 super chat. Thank you so much, dude. He says, here's for the Hero 8 battery cause what YouTube tax. Thank you, dude. Cole Power says, ND16 should drop from 1/1000th to... Wow, is it that... ND16 is 3 stops. 1,000... I used to know this shit. I used to know all the shutter speeds. What is it? 1/1000th, and then it goes all the way down to 1/640th, and then it's 1/480th, and then it's... I used to know all the shutter speeds back in the days that I was shooting stills. Drop from 1/1000th shutter speed to 1/60th. ND32 reduces 1/1000th to 1/30th. Yeah, and ND32. I only own one ND32 filter because you never use the damn things. The only times you ever use them is in snow. If it's middle of the day and it's snow on the ground, that's when you need an ND32. Other than that, super bright day, no clouds, somewhat bright stuff like green and maybe like concrete, it's ND16. ND8 is the one that you run more often than not. And then I actually only own one ND4 because it's so close to like nothing. It's only one stop that it's not even really worth it. Damn, 1/1000th to 1/60th from an ND16. I didn't realize it's such a big drop. Cole also says if camera is auto shutter speed to 1,000th, that should do it to reduce. If it's 1/2000th, then it's 1/120th. Fractions are weird. They are, and the way that shutter speed fractions up and down is super weird. Sporny says, also I have very bad ELRS range since I mounted the 04 unit on top. Any tips how to place the antenna or so? Not a whole lot. that you can do. Yeah, just try to get the antenna out from between those two PCBs. And so what I do is on the AIO that I run, the antenna exits on the corner, and so I run it. If this is the two boards, I run the antenna straight out, and then I do a little 180, and then I put it up into the canopy, and I have it as vertical as I can possibly get it. And it's not too bad, but it's not great either. Capital C says, the Mobula 8 rigs fly great, but I keep getting vibrations in the footage. Going to try 2009 props. Don't do that. The 2009 props are terrible. Instead of 2023S to see what happens. Don't bother. 2023S is the right prop. The 2009s suck. They don't make any thrust. They're super noisy. Like a week ago, I have a live stream where I tested all those different propellers, and I talked a ton about the 2009, 2008, 2023, and 2015, I guess it is. 2023 is the right prop. You need an ND filter. You need to either fly in lower light, so sunrise and sunset, or you need to get an ND filter on there. Jello is tough with anything smaller than 5-inch. Jello is tough, and ND filters are the correct solution. Or flying in lower light. FizzPV says, does that battery fit the Hero 10? It does not. It is Hero 8 only. Uriel says, send them a complaint. Who's them? They have to sign for, put it in. When you have the money, you will sew them. The more they sell, the better. Who? Who am I sending the complaint to? Protonigo says, besides Fractal customer service is really bad, you also don't get the warranty if you don't order something else. Really? I didn't know that. I would assume that their customer service is really good because it's just Eves. You don't get the warranty if you don't order something else. What the hell is that about? I guess with how inexpensive the frame is, he can't afford to do the warranty. That's tough. That's because what's the solution to that, right? He sells the frame for more money. So that's a tough spot to be in. But the customer service being, and the customer service being really bad is probably that he's got a lot on his plate, and that he's trying to juggle a ton. And because, bad customer service is usually I sent them an email and I didn't hear back for a week. And that's tough, do you do less stuff and then you have more availability to answer those emails? But at the same time, if something breaks and there's some sort of a warranty and you email and you don't hear back for a week, that sucks. I hadn't heard that though. That's interesting. I don't know. I'm not gonna. It pisses me off really bad that that they continue to sell that shirt and that they did the shirt in the first place. But I'm not gonna just disparage the guy. I never have, and I never will, other than to just call out that it's shitty that he did that one thing. But I'm not gonna disparage him and be unfair about it, even though there's a whole community of people in the tiny whooping world that seems to think that I do and that I just have it out to get them, but I don't at all. I tell the truth, and that's it. So I'm not gonna jump on some weird bandwagon. Not that I ever have, but Sporty says, got the foam in the ducts. Vibrations looking good to me. The foam in the ducts might be a part of that problem. It might be creating additional turbulence, and that might be a part of the issue. So I still think you should move away from that frame. You should try a different frame just as a method of a troubleshooting step, right? You can get a different frame for $5, and swapping it in is not going to take a lot of time, and that's going to be an important part of the troubleshoot here, right? So you should try a different frame just because you've tried a bunch of other stuff and it hasn't helped. You know what I'm saying? So, You Can FPV says, what's the easiest way to switch from props out to props in? There's only one way to do it, and it's to take the propellers off, swap them, and then to go into beta flight and reverse the motor direction, and to hit the switch in the motors tab from props in to props out, or props out to props in. Those three things, that's the only way. There's no other way to do it. I guess you could technically like unplug the motor. I guess you could technically move the motors, but that's silly. Don't do that. Just go into Betaflight and do it all in there. Jim Bob says, for the record, I don't, at this point, I don't care if it's Jimmy Bobby. It's funny to me to say it Jim Bob, so you're now Jim Bob. I hope you don't take offense to that. This is me making myself laugh. Jim Bob says, props in for racing sucks in the obstacles where props out allows you to bounce off. Unless you've got prop guards, right? This is one of the reasons tiny whooping is very different, is that the prop guard's going to take the hit. So props in versus props out doesn't matter in tiny whooping because of the guards. I still run props out on almost all of my non-guarded stuff because of that same theory. If the props are doing this and a stick or something comes in, there's a chance that the propeller will have enough jam to push that out of the way, and then you can continue to go through. You can continue to go forward. Sporny says, I'll try some different frames out. Very cool. Jamie Flies FPVs in the house. She says, I do props out always, so I don't have to remember which way every quad is set up. That is an annoyance. Pick one and stick with it. When I've been in FPV long enough that there was no discussion about props out when I first got into this. Betaflight's default was props in, and nobody thought about it. After a number of years, somebody tried props out, and they were like, oh my God, when I go through Scraggle, it pushes the Scraggle away. And then everybody went to props out. I waited for a while, and then eventually I did go to props out, and I had that same issue. I was so used to props in, I changed one rig, and then I put the props on wrong, and I had to take them back off, and it was super annoying. For me, at this point, it is props in on anything that has prop guards because I've found that it flies better from a freestyle and a cinematic perspective, and then props out on anything without prop guards. And so that's super easy. That's like, you can't really screw that up. Admittedly, the CineGlide, I do have it on props in because it was ramping the motor. I wanted better dive performance, and it's a weird frame. It's got that camera pushed forward. It's got the GoPro pushed forward. And so obviously there's some weird turbulence going on. And when I moved that thing to props in, it started to dive rock solid. And so that is like but that's the only non-prop guarded rig that I've got that's on props in. Just last week, actually, I put the props on it, props out, and took it out front to fly it, armed it, and it pushed itself into the ground. And I was like, right, dummy. So I had to bring it back downstairs and switch the props around. Luckily, it doesn't like freak out when you do that. It doesn't Tasmanian devil and try to kill you. It just creates 60 seconds more work of removing the props and switching them. So yeah, that's the, if you set up props in and you put it props out, it's going to thrust downwards. If it's set up props out and you put props in, it's going to thrust downwards. So it's not a safety thing. It's just an annoyance thing. So, yeah, for me, if I have a build that is ramping the motors up during a dive and it's on props out, I move it to props in and it fixes the problem. And then I just sit and I think, okay, is this a rig that I'm going to crash through Scraggle, or is this a rig that I want better dive performance? And I make the decision based on that. And so since it's not a safety thing, I think it's a lot less important. It's just an annoyance thing to pick one and stick with it, because there is a significant difference in flight performance. So on one hand, I do agree with like just set everything up the same, but because there is a legitimate difference in the way that it performs, and because it's not a safety issue, I'm actually on the camp of like, choose props in or props out based on what that rig is built to do. Actually, I have two open propped rigs. This is the cinematic 5-inch dead cat, and this is also on props in for the same reason. The dive performance was not as good as I wanted it on props out, and with cinematic rigs on music video sets and shit like that, I get asked to do dives. You know, like if it's a gig downtown and the roads are closed, I will very quickly get asked to do a building dive. And so if I can, you know, if the props are spinning up halfway down the building, that's a problem. That looks stupid. That flight footage looks stupid. So, B-Mud Skipper says, is it possible to just run the props backwards in the ESC? Yes. Then have Betaflight B props in all around, but you switch direction on two others. I'm just curious if it would work. Oh, so B-Mud Skipper is still talking about doing like props out in the front, but then props in the back. I don't know if that would work. It might. Try it. Try it and let us know. How about that? Frank Nicholas says, I think the send a complaint comment was about Fractal and the t-shirts. Oh. No, he knows. He knows. I don't have to send a complaint. He knows that it's not cool with me. This all got dealt with like a year ago. It's you know, it is what it is. Uriel says about t-shirts, Chaos Woner. I feel like an old person that's missing the joke with that name, but Chaos Woner says, I feel like it's a Sofa King cool scenario. I just got the goggles 2 ordered. Will I have more fun getting an analog tiny whoop that's about 17 grams or get the HD0 tiny whoop that's about the same weight? It's actually a really good question. I love that you asked which will I have more fun with. I think you'll have more fun with the analog rig. Because it's cheaper and it's probably going to be more durable. And those two things are going to allow you to fly more. And flying is fun. Cheaper, you'll have more money to replace stuff. More durable, more reliable. You'll literally be able to fly more. And so I actually think you'll have more fun. The slight improvement in video quality on HD0 versus analog, it's no more fun. Especially with a tiny whoop where you're flying around inside the house where there's no scraggle and where your couch is always in the same spot, right? Like, better video quality will allow you to see farther ahead, and it'll allow you to see stuff like scraggle, little tiny branches and shit that knock you out of the air and make you crash and prevent you from flying for the next 2 minutes when you go try to find the damn thing, right? And so, from a fun perspective, I think the answer is analog. What a cool question. What can you got? And I will say this: if you spend all that money on HD0 goggles, and then you use them for analog, there's going to be a little part of you that's like, ugh. Because there's a little part of me that's like, ugh, when I use these, you know, incredibly expensive goggles that have HD0 built in, and then I don't fly any HD0 rigs. But that has nothing to do with fun. So the answer to your question, I think, is analog, which is crazy. This is not me being down on HD0. I love that HD0 exists. It's amazing for racers. I'm not a racer. And so, yeah, I'm someone that flies freestyle and cinematic, and living in that world, I can't find a scenario that HD0 works. I keep trying it though. God damn it! Search my channel for HD0, and you'll find tons of live streams of me testing HD0 stuff over and over and over again. Because I love that it exists, and I love the guys that are making it, and I love that we have some sort of a like digital analog mix that doesn't have the problems of proper digital. But I fly the stuff that works the best in a given scenario. I don't fly stuff that's been sent to me by some sponsor. I don't fly stuff that is going to get the most possible clicks. I review stuff that'll get more clicks. But at the end of the day, when I build something to fly and that I'm going to like live with, it's got to be on the gear that works the absolute best in that scenario. And for my scenarios, I can't find an HD0 setup that works the best. So, but man, the HD0 goggles are incredible for analog. Best analog goggles that you can get, especially when you factor in the DVR. And the new HD0 goggles having analog built in that looks like it outperforms rapid fire from Nick Burns' testing. That makes me kick myself in the ass for not having waited. But I would have had to wait a long time. CiottiFPV says, can you change prop direction in ESC configurator? You can. It's just an extra step. It's easier to do it in Betaflight. Ramalala says, swap the props and fly upside down. Yeah, you could. You'll get to practice down tilt. You'll get to practice flying with down... you'll have to rotate your camera upside down too. But the HD0 goggles look good for analog too. Don't you think? I do. I'm very tempted to try to sell my V1s and buy a set of the V2s. I'm not going to do that though, because like the difference is not significant enough. And I've got the coolest looking HD0s, and I don't want to rebuy this vinyl from Fly 533 for $25 and then have to spend another $30 or whatever the hell it cost to have a shop apply it perfectly, because it is hard to there's a couple like kind of compound curves here that like if you try to do it yourself it's not going to look quite right. So yeah, like me selling these and then it would end up costing me a couple of $100 realistically, and that's just too much. That's too much to justify. The only improvements on the V2 goggles would be not having this, right? That you don't have to run this thing, and then slightly better analog performance. But these are fine. The analog performance is fine, and like the goggles are pretty big as it is. So what's another chunk hanging off the side? So yeah, I'll be sticking with the V1s. Someday, maybe someone will be desperate for the V1. Somebody will buy the V2s and they'll be desperate for the V1s, and I'll trade them. I forgot to hit return on the the Discord post tagging everyone with the link to the live stream. Oops. You can FPV with the last comment of the live stream. He says, I feel the UGG, my AO5. Wait a second. I didn't do... Jesus. I didn't do the thing that the live stream is about. You can FPV. My AO5 is sitting in a box waiting for motors and a frame. Today's live stream was about 2S DJI 04 Lite whoop and motor and frame. Jesus. Sorry, guys. Just made you guys wait 2 full hours for the actual topic of the live stream. I am going to blow through this kind of quick because we've covered this in the past, but I've done some recent testing, and I needed a topic for today. 04. Building a tiny whoop with 04 or walk snail is going to add 7 or 8 grams. That is too much dead weight for 1S, in my opinion. 2S is the way. If you do a digital tiny whoop build on 1S, the flight performance is going to be cruising and like long range only. It's not a full-blown freestyle rig. It doesn't have the power to weight ratio. It doesn't have the runtime. I've tried all the motors. I've tried all the frames. I've tried all the props. The flight performance is not good enough. If you find a motor prop combo that gives you enough power, the runtime is going to suck. If you find a setup that has enough runtime, the power to weight ratio is going to suck. And so you end up with something that's very cruisy. You don't have that ability to throw it up in the sky and have it float really nicely. It's just not good. If you go to 2S, you're going to gain 2 grams if you do it correctly. If you go BT 3.0, and if you use the Tiny Whoop 2S 300 mAh batteries, 2 grams is the weight gain over a 1S 450 mAh battery. I think you actually lose weight if you compare it to a 1S 550 mAh battery. But the 1S 550 mAh battery it wrecks the flight performance of those 1S builds. So the 450 is the realistic battery to run. So when you go to 2S, you don't gain a significant amount of weight. What you do gain is a ton of extra thrust and a ton of extra efficiency. And that is why 2S is the way, hands down. Even on 75 millimeter analog builds, to be totally honest with you, 2S, you get a ton more thrust and a bunch more efficiency, and it's way more fun. And you gain like 2 grams. It's well worth it. It's well worth that couple of gram weight gain. You don't feel that weight gain because everything else is so much better. It's awesome. So for me, anything north of a 65 millimeter 1.2 inch prop, you want to go 2S. But especially with digital, realistically, you can't go digital on 65 millimeter rigs because there are no frames that'll hold the 2S battery, so it's not even a conversation there. But yeah, digital on 75 millimeter or bigger rigs, 2S, unquestionably. The best 2S setup is BT 3.0. It's nice and lightweight. This setup here is on XT30 because this is based around the Mobula 7 04 that Happy Model sent me, and I just never took it off of XT30 because I have another setup that's on BT 3.0, and it's kind of cool to compare it. The XT30 setup is a little bit heavier, but it still flies absolutely insane. What I've been doing is I use this little guy on the bigger frames to offset the fact that it's got a little bit of a heavier setup. And then my BT 3.0 2S 04 setup, the 04 died. It's on its way back to DJI right now, actually, to get fixed. I put that onto the smaller frames, the frame that the Mobula 7 04 came with, and the Mobula 7 V3 frame. The Mobula 7 V3 frame swings a 1.6 inch propeller. This Mobula 7 HD, whatever the hell they call it, frame swings the slightly bigger 45 millimeter propeller. I think I prefer the Mobula 7 V3 frame with the smaller propellers. This is in like the weird in between. This is totally fine though. Like can you please work OBS? Yeah, there's nothing wrong with this. You save a little bit of weight when you go to the slightly smaller frame with the slightly smaller props. I also prefer the propeller selection in 1.6 inch over the 45 millimeter props. The Gem Fan 45 millimeter props, for whatever reason, are not very well balanced. And then these HQ Ultralight 45 millimeter props, as all of the HQ Ultralight props, they're a little too fragile for me. And so for me, it's either 2 inch or 1.6 inch. I don't know where that frame is. It's actually in here. This is my Mobula 7 V3 1.6 inch prop frame. Gem Fan 1610 propellers, either 1002s or 1102s. 14,000 kV is perfect. 18 or 19,000 kV is really good. You just motor limit it down a little bit. And so but there's absolutely nothing wrong with buying the Happy Model Mobula 7 04. It flies awesome. You can put the smaller propellers on this frame. It's kind of a waste, but you can absolutely do it. There's no reason not to, other than you're going to carry a little bit extra weight. And so if you want the lightest weight, really good performing digital 75 millimeter sort of indoor, outdoor, more outdoor than indoor though. 65 mil rigs are for indoor, 75 is for outdoor. I was actually really shocked though at how well the Mobula 704 did inside the house. The main problem is that it's heavy enough that if you hit like expensive stuff, it might break it. So like, you know, you got a glass vase that your great aunt Patricia sent you that you love. Something this big with 2S has the power and the weight to knock that fucker over and smash on the ground. And that sucks when that happens. So 65 millimeter for inside the house is the way to go. But if you've got a bunch of like flower beds and bushes and stuff that's like small and tight, and you've got like an area to weave in and out of outside your house, like I have in the front yard here, the 1.6 inch propeller or 45 millimeter propeller, is this 45 or 35? Whatever, you know what I mean. Slightly bigger than 1.6 inch. These are awesome for that. They're like, when you go up to the 2-inch builds, they gain a significant amount of weight, and it makes changing direction in those little tiny tight areas definitely more difficult, like unquestionably. And so for the smallest, lightest weight 04 carrying setup that will comfortably fly outside, and you can really rip with, you're looking at 1002, 1102, and then Mobula 7 V3 frame, or this new Happy Model Mobula 7 frame, and Gemfan 1610 propellers are my favorites. They're a bi-blade. If you go with this bigger frame, these HQ ultralights come in tri-blade and bi-blade. You might as well get them both. Tri-blades for more grip, bi-blades for more loosey-goosey flying. 2-inch frames. The Mobula 8 frame is really good. The motors screw down really nicely. It's relatively durable. The battery bay is really good, and it's molded. I really like this frame. It's not as durable, though, as the HGLRC 2-inch frame, which is super annoying because this frame is annoying, is just dumb. The motor mounting for 3-bolt motors, it sucks. The holes are not drilled properly. You got to like really push on the screws. It's doable. It's an annoyance, but it's properly annoying. The main thing that aggravates me about this frame, though, is the battery mounting. They force you to use rubber bands, and the battery sits a lot lower than with this frame. So the center of gravity on this HGLRC frame is going to be significantly lower, and the way that that's going to fly is kind of like a pendulum. M80, that's it. Thank you, Mape. Yeah, this is this is the M80 frame. The M80 frame is what the Mobula 704 comes with. Great frame. So my recommendation is going to be to get, if you want to do the 2-inch thing, get the Mobula 8 frame, and just run it and see how long it lasts. Everybody crashes different. This frame might last you forever. It lasted me a long time. I'm now going to try this HGLRC frame, which everybody is telling me, and I can absolutely see it's going to be more durable, but the worse center of gravity and just dealing with rubber bands holding your battery on, I know it's going to drive me insane, but we'll see. Maybe this is infinitely durable. Maybe the battery doesn't fly out of the rubber bands like I know it's gonna. We'll see what's going on with this, but definitely get the Mobula 8 frame first, because if this does not break on you, the way that it mounts the battery is better from a flight performance standpoint, and it's molded plastic, so it's not going to throw the battery all the time. In terms of motors, what I've tested on the 2-inch setup so far have been the Happy Model 1103 11,000s, which are brilliant. These are my favorite motors by far. These are the motors that come with the Mobula 8 when you buy the bind and fly. They don't make an 04 version of it yet, but they're an awesome motor. If you pair these with the Gemfan 2023 tri-blades, it is just so much fun. It is some of the most fun I've ever had tiny whooping. That's the rig that I brought to Long Beach, California a month ago and ripped 30, 40-story buildings in like 15, 20 mile an hour wind, bombing it all over the place, having the fucking time of my life. Security guard standing 20 feet away, doesn't even know I'm flying, doesn't care. It's a little kid's toy. You land it in the palm of your hand. Everybody's cool. It's such an amazing experience flying that thing around. It has just enough power and weight to push against a substantial amount of wind. 20 mile an hour wind is too much, and you start to get some wobbles and bobbles. You can absolutely edit around it. It's still super fun. 10 miles an hour wind, no problem at all. If you're not specifically building it for like tiny little tight in like super maneuverable spaces, I think 2-inch is the way to go. I've been so impressed by how these 2-inch setups handle the extra weight of digital and the wind. It's been really, really cool. If you live somewhere windy, it's a no-brainer. Do the 2-inch setup. And again, the Happy Model 1103 11,000 kV motors are just amazing. The other motors that I've tested, if you want to do something a little bit lighter, have been these RCinPower 1003s. Unfortunately, these are a 1S kV. These are 22,000 kV. I motor limited them down a ton, but I was having to motor limit them down so much that they were causing problems. They do sell these motors in 14,000 kV, which would be awesome. 1003, a little bit smaller than 1103. So you're gonna have, it's gonna be a little bit lighter weight, but it's gonna have a little bit less power. I've been so impressed by these Happy Model 1103s that I'm just gonna stick with them. I don't think I'm gonna get these 1003s in 14,000 kV to test them. It's just the difference is gonna be so slight, I might not even be able to tell. And like, I have these motors and they're awesome, and you can get them all over the place. So just get these. I've also tested 1002. These are iFlight Defender 1002 14,000 kV motors, and the biggest difference here is we've gone from 1103 1003 to 1002. A 2 millimeter tall stator versus a 3 millimeter tall stator is a massive difference in just raw power, and it's not enough. A 2 millimeter tall stator on a big heavy 2-inch frame with big old 2-inch props, it's just not the way. I thought maybe that I could run those really lightweight 2008, 2009 gem fan props and put enough RPM into them to make these 1002s work. It's just not it. It's a much better balanced rig. It's a much better feeling rig when you've got the 3 millimeter tall stator motors and you've got the bigger propellers. But if you're absolutely looking for like the most possible efficiency and range, I guess, maybe then you'd want to do like a 1002 or an 1102, go with those lighter weight propellers. But the difference in flight performance is really noticeable, and it really feels better on the bigger props, right? The whole point of going from the smaller 1.6 to the 2-inch is that you're doing a setup that makes more power and pushes against the wind better. So why then go to a smaller motor and a smaller prop, right? If you're going to build it bigger and heavier, build it bigger and heavier, hit it with the bigger motor, and you're probably going to like it better. This is just the 1002. Yes, going up to an 1102 would add a little bit more power, but nowhere near as much power as going up to a 1003 or an 1103. Always keep in mind that the height of the stator has way more of an influence on the amount of power than the width. Especially when you go from 2 millimeters tall to 3 millimeters tall. That's a 50% increase in the stator height, and the height of the stator does more work than the width of the stator. When the magnet comes around, the vertical part of the winding is what's doing all the work to pull the magnet. So the taller the vertical part of the stator is going to make a drastic increase in how much more it's going to be able to pull on the magnet. The width is just like adding a breaker bar to get more mechanical torque. And it's a smaller percentage change. When you go from a 10 to an 11, that's only like a 9% increase versus 2 to 3 is a 50% increase. So there's a massive change that happens when you go from a 2mm tall stator to a 3mm tall stator. The increase in weight of these 2-inch frames really benefits from a 3mm tall stator. From a propeller perspective, the Gemfan 2023 tri-blades are insanely good. The Gemfan 2015 bi-blades are really good. The Gemfan 2009 and 2008 suck. And so the big, thick, beefy Gemfan props are what you want. It's a big, thick, beefy frame. You know, match beef with beef, my friends. That's my advice. I might test an 1102 someday on a 2-inch frame, but with how weak the 1002s kind of felt, it's not high on the list of priorities. But there you go. There's a bunch of frame and motor feedback from a few hundred batteries of testing this year on 04 Tiny Whoops. The big thing, though, is just to get onto 2S. If you're trying to do an 04 build on 1S, if you're doing a 65mm setup like my little RC drift car chasing rig, cool. Anything more than that, though, or if you want more than like 2 minutes and 20 seconds of runtime, you got to go 2S. And if you're doing something to fly outside, it's got to be 75mm or bigger on 2S. Sporny says, last question for me today. What 2-inch frame would you get for mostly cinematic if you don't need to be a whoop? You know what? I can't answer that because I've never flown or played with any of those cinematic 2-inch setups. The first thing I would do is not do a 2-inch rig. Do a 2.5 or a 3-inch. They're not much bigger. They're a lot quieter, and you're going to get a lot more efficiency from them. So that would be my recommendation, is to not do a 2-inch frame. Mape says, RS 1102 13,500 is in the Mobula 8. The new Mobula 8, yeah, that's right. They changed the wait, no, hold on. When I got the Mobula 804, it came with 1102 10,000 kV motors. At some point they changed that to be, and they're really good. They're really good. Nowhere near as good as these bigger motors. But if you want a super lightweight rig, it's good. It's pretty much just as good as the 1.6-inch version that I built for really tight stuff. Yeah, at some point they changed the KV from 10,000 to 13,500, which is awesome. That's a really good idea. And yeah, they're great. It's closer to the performance of a 1.6-inch build, like what I've got, than a 2-inch build. And so it's in this weird like middle ground. And for me, I decided like I would rather, if you're just going to have one rig, it's perfect. But for me, I decided I wanted to do 2 separate builds for testing. And the 2-inch build is a big, beefy animal. And then I wanted to go as lightweight as possible. And so that meant Mobula 7 version 3 frame, 1.6-inch props, 1002 motors to take like 2 or 3 grams off. And you can feel it when you're really like, you know, in the front yard, those bushes are really close together. And so when I'm really trying to whip through them and change directions quick, that does make a difference. But boy, the Mobula 704 is incredible out of the box. I have a couple edits with it. It's just staggeringly good. Ghastly FPV says, I've been having a shit time posting videos on Instagram. On PC, it says file must be 1 gigabyte or less. On iPhone, I've had a hard time getting videos into my Photos app for my file app. Dropbox is the easiest way to do it. Sign up for Dropbox on your PC. You put your files into the Dropbox. On your phone, you open the Dropbox application. You go to share, and it'll save it to the photos. It's like the slickest way that I've found to get flight footage into my phone so that I can get it onto Instagram. And then the only pain in the ass is that those big flight files, when you go in Instagram to import them, it sits there in pinwheels for a couple of minutes. So that's still kind of annoying, but it's the best way. UCanFPV says, why don't we use 603 and 703, 803? 603 has a ratio of 2 to 1, width to height, and they overheat. 703 has a ratio of 2.3 to 1. They overheat. 803, 369, we're getting close, but we're still not to that 3 to 1. 803's kind of overheat. 803 would be a good motor size if there were more than like two of them in existence. The biggest problem with 803s is that the KVs are all wrong, and there's only a couple that exist. If someone were to make like an 803 20,000 kV motor, it would actually have a home, and it would be a good motor, but nobody makes it. Ghastly says the Google Drive works once in a blue moon. How are you posting on Insta? Just talked about that. Mape with the last comment of the live stream. The biggest problem with 2S is sourcing those stack screws. Yeah, I have a bunch of them on my Etsy store, but it is a little bit of a pain. Thanks for hanging, friends. I'll see you guys tomorrow night at 10 o'clock. It is a giveaway live stream, so if you want to get in on the giveaways, jump to the $5, $10, $5 or more tiers on Patreon. $5 a month gets you entered to win, and you don't even have to be on the live stream. It gets you entered to win Tiny Whoop and Toothpick parts. $10 a month enters you to win 3-inch or CineWhoop parts. $20 a month enters you to win 5-inch parts. You don't have to be on the live stream. Package will just show up at your door a couple weeks after the giveaways, and you'll have a bunch of stuff. So, yeah, join the Patreon if you're not already on it. If you're already on it and you're on the $3 tier, $2 extra a month, and you might win $50 worth of Tiny Whoop stuff tomorrow night. CiottiFPV.com has a link to the Patreon, or just search CiottiFPV. Thanks for hanging, friends. Here comes some more CineGliding when it wasn't chopping my fingers to bits. Not sure what propellers are on it here. Probably. 55-36s are up. Now I do. 55-36s. Love you. Bye. See you guys tomorrow night. Have an excellent end of your Saturday. Don't chop your fingers up.